Let's turn our Bibles tonight to the book of Proverbs. We'll be in the book of Proverbs in chapter 22. Proverbs 22. And we're going to begin in verse 16. And we covered some of this last week, but we're going to go through that and then we're going to get into where we're going to start. So verse 16, it says, "He that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. Bow down thine ear and hear the words of the wise, and apply thine heart unto my knowledge. For it is a pleasant thing if thou keep them within thee. They shall withal be fitted in thy lips, that thy trust may be in the Lord. I have made known to thee this day, even to thee. Have not I written to thee excellent things in counsels and knowledge, that I might make thee know the certainty of the words of truth, that thou mightest answer the words of truth to them that send unto thee. Rob not the poor, because he is poor. Neither oppress the afflicted in the gate. For the Lord will plead their cause, and spoil the soul of those that spoil them." So we're going to look tonight at these verses 22 and 23 and get into this. Number one is a great concern of the Lord. I want to talk about a great concern of the Lord tonight. Here we find an important aspect of God's economy. And this really is this. Number one, all are not rich. It's news to us, isn't it? All are not rich. So what is rich? What does it mean to be rich? As we would say, if I said, man, that person's rich, how much money would someone have to be rich? Somebody give me an answer. How much money? How much?
More than they need.
More than they need? Okay. Well, that would be about every American. Right? You see how it's... right? So, rich, I would think somebody that's rich can, in my mind, I'm just, kind of a general, I think they could probably buy anything, most things that they want. Not anything. Because now you're talking, there's flights to the moon now, so I don't know that you could buy anything. But I would think somebody that's rich can have most of the things that they would want, right? But rich is kind of a relative word, right? It's kind of like technical knowledge, like computer knowledge. So the person that doesn't know much, like the person that knows a little bit more, is like a genius, right? If you're up there trying to figure out your computer or your phone, and you're like, I can't figure this out, you hand it to somebody and they're like, yeah, here you go, and you're like, man, you're a genius, right? They don't know much, they just know a little bit more than me. And then the next person, they're like, I'm stuck, and they ask somebody else and they can do something. So to be a genius in technical stuff, you just have to know a little bit more than the next person, right? I think that's kind of how rich is. We would, in Sri Lanka, we were wealthy people, right? People would come up and they would at times expect us to give them monies just because we're from America. And the problem with that is there are hundreds and hundreds of people that think that same thing. And so pretty quick, we'd all be in the same boat. So I'm getting to a thought tonight is just this. In God's economy, all are not rich. Okay? So, number two. So really, as a matter of fact, it's this. God uses the what? The poor of this world very often. So I want you to get this idea. God uses the poor in this world very often. Right? Matter of fact, we could almost make that word very to most often. Most often the people that God uses are the poor, right? and so I want us to understand that in the things of God, and so which takes us to B. But really is this, but one's wealth does not determine one's worth, one's worth to God. One's wealth does not determine one's worth to God. So if somebody comes in with, fine clothes and jewelry, in the Bible it says, you don't bring them up to the front of the room. Here, our prime seats are the back. Oh, we got a seat for you in the back. We're a Baptist church now. But listen, if somebody comes in, he says we don't put them in this special place because of their wealth. Because what we find in God's economy, money, our wealth does not determine our worth. Matter of fact, sometimes it's the wealthy that God gets the least amount of service out of. And maybe a better way to say it is on the positive note is it's the poor that God gets the most service out of. It's not because they got more time or they got more to give. It's just they're willing to give of themselves. And so we find this kind of situation. Number one, instead, the Lord has proposed that those that have wealth should not take from the poor. That seems kind of almost obvious, doesn't it? Like, does God really have to say that? Hey, rich people, don't take from the poor. Well, that's kind of, what do the poor have to take? Well, two, should this behavior not take place, which is, it's a double negative, I guess, in a sense, but should that take place where they are taken from them, the Lord Himself will plead their cause. So, here's the deal. The Lord said, listen, don't to the wealthy, don't rob from the poor, right? Don't rob from the poor, because if you do, then God's going to plead their case. He's going to plead their cause. And so, under that, and that pleading is to the spoiling of the spoiler, is what He says. I'm going to tell you what, there's some people that I don't care if they're mad at me. Some people, by the way, I don't want anybody mad at me. Right? I don't want anybody to be mad at me ever, right? But there's a lot of people that get mad at me and they're mad, mad's mad. But I don't want God to be spoiling me, right? Because He is the one that can do it, right? He's the one that can do this. So look at number two. A major topic is number two. Roman numeral 2 there. So A, under that. 35 times we find the poor being spoken of in the book of Proverbs. This is the poor are spoken of more times than there are chapters in Proverbs. It is spoken of a lot, right? It is obviously something that's near and dear. It's a major topic to the Lord. It's something that He is concerned with. Amen? You see that? I think, would that be evident? We're talking about just in the book of Proverbs. So here in our passage, we find this important instruction, and I read over some of what we talked about last week, this instruction of hearing, of applying and trusting the Lord. It's sandwiched between two proverbs on the poor, right? Down there in verse 16 and then in verse 22. So number one, this 22nd chapter of Proverbs is filled with lessons about the poor. Look at there at verse 2. The rich and poor meet together. The Lord is the maker of them all. Listen, the poor is what? Equal with the rich. This is what, God's the maker of us all, right? Does God make some people to be rich? And does He make some... Don't answer this yet. Don't answer out loud. So, does God make some people to be rich and make some people to be poor? The answer to that is absolutely yes. Absolutely, there's people that God puts in their situation. Why are the rich rich? Because they're lucky. Right? They pick the right numbers on the lotto. I mean, do they? I guess we still do lotto today, right? I don't know. How many do lotto? No, don't tell me. And so I used to hear about it. There's millions, billions of dollars. I don't know. I guess maybe it still goes. I just don't hear about it anymore. Listen, it isn't lucky. God just uses people in different places, right? He just uses us in different places and different ways. Look at number 7, verse 7. It says there, the rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. Listen, the relationship one with another is symbiotic, right? That's a big word. I wanted to use a big word tonight. Really just means this. You don't have rich without the poor, and you don't have poor without the rich. There's people in different places that are there. I'm glad there's wealthy people that have built factories to build cars and to build production of food, and I'm glad there's wealthy people that invest their money to make things that whether it's different kind of garment factories or clothing or appliances or whatever, somebody has to be over there so the other people have someone to buy it from. Right? By the way, the wealthy people ought to be glad that there's poor people that need a job. Right? Because they need a job. Because you can have all the money and all the factories in the world, but if there's nobody to work it, you got an empty factory. So that's what I'm saying. There's a relationship, and do I wish I was the factory owner rather than the guy sweeping the trash off the ground? Probably, except for when I have to make all the big decisions, right? And so it's what I'm saying. It's a symbiotic relationship. There's this thing back and forth that God's plan is for us to work together in this thing. So look at verse 9. He that hath a bountiful eye shall be blessed, for he giveth of his bread to the poor. Listen, blessing goes to those that meet the need of the poor. That's what the Bible tells us here. That's what this proverb is saying, is that, listen, there's blessings to this one with a bountiful eye, because the one with the bountiful eye means he sees the needs of others. By the way, he doesn't just see them, he meets the needs of others. And that's an important aspect in the economy of God, that we work together. Verse 16, we read that earlier, but he that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. And listen, getting wealthy from the poor leads to loss. So what an amazing thing. Why? So it's somebody that takes from the poor to make yourself wealthier, and then what you do is you give some of that to other rich people. Do wealthy people need your wealth? Not in this sense. But in this sense, what he's talking about is that they take from the poor to increase their value, but they're giving to other wealthy people so they can get this relationship with them where they get it. He said, listen, they're going to come to want is what's going to happen. It's going to be a place of loss. So listen, I'm just saying this here. It's a major topic in God's economy. Number three are the monsters of this world. The monsters. Did you know there was monsters in the world? Yeah, there are monsters in this world. It is a harsh thing to not relieve the poor. Okay? Listen, it's harsh to not relieve the poor when we could do so without any injury to ourselves. Listen, here's what I'm saying here is it's harsh when somebody has a need and we could meet that need without any trouble to us, so no injury to ourselves. I'm not going to have to go without food. My family's not going to have. It's not no injury, but we just choose to. Nah, I don't want to. You know, some people will do this to waiters and waitresses. We were in a restaurant some time back. I can't even remember where it was at. I just remember this situation. There was this family. They had these kids, and they were wild. And there was trash everywhere. I mean, it was just like they moved into live there. You know what I mean? It's noisy, loud. I wasn't paying that much attention, but you could hear, and they were just kind of demanding, and there was stuff all over and trash underneath the floor. And we ended up having the same waitress. And she came over, she said, well, she was a little bit exasperated. She said, I just got stiffed by this family over there. And, she wasn't, I didn't feel like she was complaining like that. It was just kind of like, all that, something like that. You put in a lot of work, and she had to clean up the floor, and here she is. And I thought, by the way, I don't know if you realize this, but waitresses probably wouldn't fit in the wealthy category. They would probably slide a little closer to the poor end spectrum, right? And I just think, what a situation that, but to not relieve the poor, right? You say, well, those folks, maybe they just had enough money to eat. Well, they probably should have went to the grocery store, right? And so it's a harsh thing. It's what I'm saying is this: it's a harsh thing not to relieve the poor. When to do so, you could do so without any injuries. That's a harsh thing. But number one, but to oppress them and add affliction to their case is brutal and monstrous. Here's what I'm saying. It's one thing not to meet their need. It's another thing altogether to add affliction to those that are in this condition. Number two, it is the epitome of preying on the weak. There is a specific contents that this proverb is suggesting. Look again, verse 22. Rob not the poor because he is poor, neither oppress the afflicted in the gate. Okay, this number one. So in the gate is a reference in the Old Testament to the place of what? Of judgment, right? It's the place of judgment where the magistrates would sit. Okay, that's what would take place when we talk about people that sit at the gate and people that what happens at the gate and somebody that would come up to the gate. It's where that place of judgment would take place. So number two, to oppress the afflicted at the gate is to take advantage of them because they had no one to plead their cause, or to plead their case. It's for the fact that they come up here, they come up to the gate to get some judgment, but they're taken advantage of because of their situation, because they had no one. Listen, under there, if there was a rich friend or a lawyer, they would not take advantage of them. This is the case. This is what we're talking about here in this proverb. If there was somebody else that, you say what you really need to do is you need to get you a rich friend so you don't get taken advantage of. Is that the message of the proverb? No, that's not the message of the proverb. But this is what he's saying. What God is trying to say is don't get involved in this kind of thing at the gate. Listen, judicial systems of today can be seen to have turned into a system that primarily pays for a ruling, right? We would say something like that. Whoever has the highest priced lawyers seem to get away with more and win more cases. I think of one of the most famous cases in my day, it's been a while back, but was a feller by the name of O.J. Simpson. Remember him? And I remember, there was all this evidence, but he had like a team of, $1,000 suit lawyer, probably $2,000. I don't know what these guys all came up there, and I almost wonder if we live in a society today that the judges are intimidated by the lawyers because the lawyers know more than the judges. And so I'm just wondering about this. I wonder if the judge is like, man, they know more than me. They're going to make me look dumb, right? And they argue with them. And so we're in that kind of situation today. Listen, this is exactly what the wisdom of the Lord was warning us about. The world may do it, but we should not. We shouldn't say, well, you know what? Hey, listen, folks, help me with this. Get a hold of this in your heart and pass it. Don't be silent. The reason we're passing on wisdom, the reason we're getting this to pass on wisdom is so that you pass it out. So I've passed it to you. I don't need to pass it to everyone that's not here. You're the core group Wednesday night. So when somebody comes in here and sits in here and they say something contrary to the wisdom that we're learning from the Word of God, don't just say, yeah, you have to go talk to Pastor about that. No, you tell him what was passed on. And let me say this. I want to say this. When there comes an occasion that we got hurt and we could sue the pants off somebody and make a bunch of money, and you've got an ambulance chaser that's chasing you and found you and said, hey, we can get you. There's commercials, there's billboards, we've won lots of money, right? You've seen these billboards. Listen, that may be what the world does, but that's not what we do. God said, don't do that. You say, well, the insurance companies, they're not the poor. Who do you think pays the insurance company? Right? So when the insurance company, the poor insurance companies, they get sued, you know what they do? They're poor people, they're going to lose money. No, you know what they're going to do? Bring us all up a little bit. We just don't do the same thing, folks. Let's get that in our head. I know you know that, but in case you don't, now you know. All right? Pass that on. If you hear that stuff, by the way, I'm not saying if somebody is wrongfully done something that we shouldn't have them. Don't misunderstand that, right? If somebody's wrongfully done something, take care of your needs and so forth. But listen, in this case, though, as we find here in the Proverbs, we have a friend that will plead our case. He'll plead our cause. We don't need the high-powered lawyers. Look at verse 23. For the Lord will plead their cause and spoil the soul of those that spoil them. Man, I'm going to tell you what. When the Lord pleads our cause, it's number 3, He spoils the spoiler. So what does He do to him? Well, look at verse 16 again. He that oppresseth the poor to increase his riches, and he that giveth to the rich shall surely come to want. Okay? Listen. Is that saying we should never get some legal help? Am I saying that tonight? You're like, I don't think so, preacher. No. There's Christian Law Association. There's other people out there. But we're not trying to dig deeper in somebody's pockets. We're trying to keep them from digging out of our pockets. And God has provided some of those things. Amen. But listen, at the end, it's the Lord that pleads our cause. We're trusting Him. Now, you say, well, I trusted God and He didn't come through. People that trust God don't say stuff like that. I trusted God and He didn't come through for me. I can tell right now by you saying that, this hypothetical they didn't really believe it, right? Because if I said I was trusting God, He didn't come through, my answer would be then God didn't want that to go that way, right? That's what I'm going to say. So if you ever get in your mind to say, well, I was trusting God, but it didn't work, right? That means you still got some work to do. Oh, you have little faith. And by the way, we all do in that area. So when it says there that in verse 16 that he shall surely come to want, listen, this isn't just a threat of destruction and violence. No. It is the wisdom of God. Okay? It's the wisdom of God. And which is C. You reap what you sow. Okay. Hey, listen, this is just the wisdom of God. This is the way the world is. You're going to have this kind of behavior. You're going to do these kind of things. You're going to take from the rich and give to the poor. You're going to come to want. Listen, for the most part, God doesn't have to afflict the wealth of the rich. He merely removes His protective hand from them. Okay? Listen, there's God isn't out there trying to get us, right? He's trying to get me. Oh man, I got to go straight. I've got to walk the straight and narrow. If I don't, God's going to get me. That you don't know God. That's not how He works. But I will say something. What we don't realize is if it wasn't for God holding this world together, it would all come apart. You say, well, no, we have gravity. You know how gravity works? Me either. Gravity works by the Lord has the whole world, right? He holds it together. You say, so if God says, okay, I'm done with you people. I'm thankful. I mean, one time the Lord said, I'm so fed up with these people. They're all nothing but, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to let the springs of the earth go and let the firmament go, and the whole world was flooded. See what I'm saying? Can God do that again? He could. He said He won't, but there's other ways. So what I'm saying is this. So God doesn't, sometimes He doesn't have to afflict their wealth always, but there are times, though, when He does afflict our income and our ability to earn, or the success of our productivity. I mean, there's times that we've read in the Scriptures where here in the evening service on the post-exile Israel, we've seen where God afflicted the land, afflicted their crops, and put holes in their bags, right? To where sometimes God does it that way. Look, number 4, this is the great interest. This is of great interest to the Lord. It's a major topic. So B, do not be a monster. Okay? Do not be a monster. All right, I want to give you this example, and then we'll be done. Okay? An example for us to see. 1 Kings. Let's turn over to 1 Kings. 1 Kings in chapter 21. This is 1 Kings 21 and verse 1. It came to pass after these things that Naboth the Jezreelite had a vineyard, which was in Jezreel, and hard by the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. And Ahab spoke unto Naboth, saying, Give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near unto my house, and I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it, or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. And Naboth said to Ahab, The Lord forbid it me, that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. And Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down on his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread. I'd love to spend some time on the pouting of Ahab, but we don't have time. So number 8, King Ahab wanted this vineyard of Naboth. But number 1, but this was the possession of his heritage. It was not his to sell according to the Word of God. So Leviticus, I'm just going to read these verses to you. Leviticus 25, verse 23. The land shall not be sold forever, for the land is mine. For ye are strangers and sojourners with me. Numbers 36:7 says, So shall not the inheritance of the children of Israel remove from tribe to tribe, for every one of the children of Israel shall keep himself to the inheritance of the tribe of his fathers. Ezekiel 46:18 says this, Moreover, the prince shall not take of the people's inheritance by oppression, to thrust them out of their possession, but he shall give his son's inheritance out of his own possession, that my people be not scattered, every man from his possession. This was the law. What Naboth was saying is the law. So rich Ahab became sad because he couldn't have a garden. Poor fella, right? Look at verse 5. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said unto him, Why is thy spirit so sad, that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, Give me thy vineyard for money, or else if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. But he answered, I will not give thee my vineyard. And Jezebel, his wife, said unto him, Dost thou not govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let thine heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. His wife, the queen, said she'll go get it. I'll go get it for you, honey. So she said, don't worry. Get up, Mr. King, and eat some bread. Eat something. I'm going to take care of it. Folks, getting what you want or getting somebody else what they want isn't always the best thing for you or for them. Look at verse 8 now. So she wrote letters in Ahab's name and sealed them with his seal, and sent the letters unto the elders and to the nobles that were in the city, dwelling with Naboth. And she wrote in the letters, saying, proclaim a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. And set 2 men, sons of Belial. Sons of Belial are liars, is what those are. Set the 2 sons of Belial before him to bear witness against him, saying, thou didst blaspheme God and the king, and then carry him out and stone him, that he may die. And the men of this city, even the elders and the nobles who were the inhabitants of his city, did as Jezebel had sent unto them, and as it was written in the letters which she had sent unto them. They proclaimed a fast, and set Naboth on high among the people. And there came in 2 men, children of Belial, and set before him. And the men of Belial witnessed against him, even against Naboth, in the presence of the people, saying, Naboth did blaspheme God and the king. And they carried him forth out of the city, and stoned him with stones, that he died. These men, number 3, these men, the elders and nobles of the city, followed the instruction, even though it was unrighteous. Have you ever thought about this? If these men would have refused, if they would have refused this unrighteousness, right? They might have saved, listen to what I'm saying to you, they might have saved both Naboth's life and Jezebel's life. Giving people what they want and following unrighteousness. Well, I didn't want it. I didn't want them to be mad. I didn't want, if I did that, everybody would be mad at me. Man, help us not to be like that. Verse 14. Then they sent to Jezebel, saying, Naboth is stoned and is dead. And it came to pass, when Jezebel heard that Naboth was stoned and was dead, that Jezebel said to Ahab, arise, take possession of the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite, which he refused to give thee for money, for Naboth is not alive, but dead. And it came to pass, when Ahab heard that Naboth was dead, that Ahab arose to go down to the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite and take possession of it. Oh, what a monstrous couple. Monstrous is what I'm saying to you. But the Lord pleads the cause of the poor. I'm not going to read the rest of this, but number 4. This story is fulfilled with the brutal death of Ahab as well as Jezebel. It was prophesied that they'll lick his blood from that place that that thing had happened, and that Jezebel was eaten by the dogs. Wasn't even anything left. I'm telling you, God pleads the cause, right? Hey, it may not always unfold the way we think it will. But the Lord pleads the cause of the poor. It works out. You say, well, how did that work out? I mean, Naboth's life is gone. Folks, it doesn't always go the way that we wanted it to go. It doesn't always go the way we think it will. It doesn't always play out the way that, well, in my mind, I thought, well, just that's our problem. I thought, trust the Lord. Trust the Lord in 2025. Amen. Last thing, the spoiler will be spoiled. Lord said, you don't have to take vengeance. God said, I've got this. I'll work it out. I'll work it out. Trust me. Can we trust the Lord? Okay, that's not a question. I should change it. We can trust the Lord. Amen. Let's all stand together tonight. Father, I do pray that you'd help us tonight as we take this truth that you've given us in the Proverbs. Lord, you've made it so clear to us that we're to live this life different than the world does. It's different. It's strange. It's peculiar. And it sometimes goes against sound reasoning even. Yet, you make it clear to us that you will plead the cause of the poor. And Lord, help us to be those that would be those that bless the poor, that would meet their need, that you might bless us. Father, pray that you'd lead, guide, and direct tonight. And we'll thank you for it. In Jesus'